It's loading. There we go. We live.
You're listening to Hotepish with your host, Dwann B. Intelligent ish talk, intelligent shit talk, where we balance the profound with the profane. Political satire, celebrity and expert guests, information and entertainment, conversation and solutions. Leave your feelings at the door.
What up, y'all? We are here. Hotepish. Intelligent ish talk. Intelligent shit talk. Where we balance the profound with the profane. Y'all know me. Stand-up comedian. And somebody that helps. Hey, we can do it all, can't we? My name is Dwann B. Welcome. I am honored. I'm not going to waste no time. I am honored to bring in my special guest. Y'all been waiting on him. Brother, Mr. Teacher, Elder, great Kaba Hiawatha Kamene. How you doing today, brother?
My brother, I am doing excellent. Brother Dwann, thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to speak to you and to your community of listeners. Brother, it is just an honor and a pleasure, from East Coast to West Coast.
Yes.
And all around town. It's here.
I appreciate it. So for those of you who don't know, and you don't know who Brother Kaba is. Kaba is someone, he's been around. He was Dr. John Henry Clark's understudy. I mean, y'all see I got Dr. Clark on the shirt here. You know how much I look up to Dr. John Henry Clark, y'all. So we got his direct descendant. He was on all the Hidden Colors movies. He was in Out of Darkness. He was in Happy. And he was in a lot of films that woke us up. So, including me. He helped me realize that my job, y'all know when I was at Breakthrough, Breakthrough's my company now. When I was at the last job, y'all know the mental health challenges that I went through. I'm tired, I'm very open with that. And when I heard this part in Hidden Colors talk about the system of the school and how the school system works, it made me realize I wasn't going crazy. It made me realize that this isn't personal. Something bigger than what I'm going through. So I'm just honored to have him on. So again, welcome.
Wow, powerful, very powerful. And Brother Dwann, I'm honored to have been part of your journey, because that's really what I've dedicated my life to. And something you said is really important. And I think that if all of us as an African American people could understand this. Nothing's wrong with you. Something happened to you. And it's continuing to happen to you. And having been in the New York City, just for those that may not be familiar with my background, I call it retire. They call it retire. I call it graduation. But I was in the New York City Board of Ed for 31 years, 3 months, and 15 days. I taught at State College, upstate New York, for 12 years. I taught college for 14 years. I've taught every grade. I've taught every subject. I purposefully geared and strategically shaped my career around having that experience. I remained in the same community for the 31 years of my teaching, from 2009 to, from 1979, October of 1979 until July of 2009, I remained in South Central Bronx. See, California got South Central.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago got South Side.
Yeah.
The Bronx got South Central too. South Central Bronx. I was there for 31 years, brother, with our children. We had 69 different language groups in our community. Many of them were from the continent herself, from Yoruba to Igbo to Hausa Fulani to Twi, the Caribbean, the many different types of Spanish, be it from Central America, South America, or the Caribbean. I have worked with students of Native American descent from Central America who don't speak Spanish. They spoke a type of Maya language, a Maya dialect. You know, there are some people that are coming to the border now that don't speak Spanish. They speak a Native American language, indigenous to their culture. And my experiences with the African American community in particular in South Central Bronx, and my experiences with the African diaspora at large, some of the most intelligent people I ever met in my life were in special ed. I was there in the beginning of special ed. I was there in 1979 when we had what was called the consent decree, where there was a public law that brought special education into where it was. We went to a Lauer decree, where the foreign language departments were developed, where it became law. And so I watched how the educational system developed. And my thing, Brother Dwann, and to the family that's listening, what's important to me to understand is exactly how intelligent you are and who you have. Let me just start with this. And I thank at ancestralfootprints.com for sharing this mathematical chart with me. Just so we can understand where we're coming from and the profoundness of who we are as a people. If you go back 20 generations of your lineage, 20 generations, you have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents. If you go back 20 generations, if we say a generation is 20 years, we're looking at 400 years. We can round it off for now. So what I'm telling you is that from the year 1621 until 2021, for you, Brother Dwann, to be in existence, it took 1,047,576 human beings to bring you into existence.
Jeez.
Just think about how profound that is.
Man.
For you to exist, for me to exist, for those who are listening to this program to exist, it took 1,047,576 human beings to bring you into existence. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think you're alone?
No, I'm not.
No, hold on, brother, because I only went back 400 years.
Wow.
What happens if I take you back to millions of years? How many ancestors dwell within you? How many people existed to bring you into existence? Do you think your purpose on the planet was by mistake? It don't make me no difference. When I used to talk to children, and children used to say, well, I ain't got no daddy. I said, no, you got a daddy. He may not be at home with you, but for you to be here, you got a daddy.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, you have a more important daddy. You have the cosmic daddy. You have the cosmic mommy. They assigned your mommy and daddy to bring you into existence, but they brought you into existence at their command. You're here for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You've been given a gift, unlike anybody else. No one else got your gift. Even if there are other folk out on the scene doing what you're doing, nobody do it like you. And never forget that.
I appreciate that, because like you were I was in South Central LA, born and raised in South Central LA. And I started working at a King Drew Medical Center in 1995 when I was 14 as a student tutor. I never left South Central. My whole work area was from south of downtown to Compton to the south, Watts to the east, and the jungles in Inglewood to the west. And that's always been the area that I was in. And you're right. I when I was working with the children, I noticed the boys, specifically the boys that I had, because they didn't put too many girls in special ed, but the boys that I had that were in special ed, as you would talk to them, you know, you would get these jackets on them. Oh, this kid here, Devontae, he got up on the roof of the Imperial Courts and he would throw rocks at police cars, and he wouldn't listen in class, he wouldn't shut up, and this and that and that. Then you talk to him like, this little boy's smart. Have you ever thought that maybe he was bored? And that's why he's acting out? And I thought I was really going crazy. Then when I saw your part on Hidden Colors, it said, that's by design. And that's why here for y'all listening on Hotepish Intelligent Ish Talk, that's why whenever I bring topics up, we always have a learning lesson. We always have what we can get out of it. Whether it be the most recent fight on the internet or a movie or things in life, because man, if you just listen to what people say, you're confused. And I thought those boys were really slow, but I thank you for that. But I want to get into it. I want you to start off from the pyramids and let them know where we've gone, where we are, and where we're going, and then we're going to get into your work.
Absolutely. And this concept is a dual concept, and I'm going to do the other side of the concept also, to understand, because part of what we talked about in terms of the ancestors. Okay, so we see how many ancestors we have. We have 1,047,576 as of 400 years ago. But now let's go back. Let's go back to where we came from before we got here. And then let's continue to look at the fact, because I do a class on the fact that the hands that built the pyramids built the White House. Mm-hmm. That's the class that I teach. To understand that the pyramidal technology, because there are pyramids in West Africa. You see, we get caught up in the exoticness of Kemet or Egypt. All of Africa was great. And pyramid builders traveled. There's a book that talks about the road that Africans took out of the Nile Valley. And they ended up in West Africa. And at the same time, West Africans came back to East Africa. See, we don't know our history. We are caught up in the greatest lie that ever was told. And when someone tells a perfect lie, the truth is unbelievable. So combine your ancestral line that goes back to the continent. Go back to the tracing of African people and their accomplishments. And what I say to each and every one of us as African peoples here in the United States is we have the DNA of the pyramid builders. And I'm hoping that makes scientific sense to you.
Yes, it does.
We have to understand that we have that DNA in us. The ones that built the pyramids, the men and the women. Because that's another thing they don't talk about. They don't talk about the profound impact that women had, African women had, on the building of the pyramids and the mathematics that went into it. We have the DNA of the pyramid builders in us. We also have the DNA of those that they stole from Africa. But let me stop here and tell you something about, because I've studied in Egypt twice. In Abu Simbel, there is the frieze, the story, and it's called the Battle of Kadesh, where Ramses II is fighting his foes. And in the story he's all by himself and he's fighting the Amu, who are the Indo-Europeans. And what Ramses II says is that for as long as I have the Creator on my side, as long as I have Amun-Ra on my side, my enemies are bound to be defeated, even if I do it by myself. And so another part of the story says it's a prediction that there would come a time where the sun would no longer rise in the east, But for the last time, this sun would rise in the east and set in the west, and the world would not know balance. But at some appointed time, some anointed time, the sun uniquely would rise up out of the west, return to the east, and start the cycle of Ma'at, truth and justice once again. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a prediction. It's a metaphor, but it sounds like we were that sun that rose in the east for the last time and settled in the west. And it seemed like what you and I are doing right now, Brother Dwann, and all those that are listening, we the sun that's rising uniquely in the west. And we're returning back to the east. With that story in mind, we knew heaven. We lived in heaven. The Creator created the fruits and the vegetables and the food and the weather and the animals. We had problems, but we were in heaven. But we talked about hell. We talked about the lake of fire with the 4 baboons on either corner. This is our writing. And the lake of fire was where you went when you lived. Well, let me just say, you didn't live a good life. Mm-hmm. We call it hell. They didn't call it hell. They call it the lake of fire. This is where they get the concept of hell being hot. But all things come out of water. So their image of heat was not a dry heat. It was a wet heat that came from the lake of fire, where your bones would be scalded and that you would writhe in pain for all the transgressions you committed in your life. We talked about hell, but we didn't know it. So the Creator said this. He said, to create a more perfect union, I'm going to take a group of y'all out and I'm going to put you in hell. I'm going to let you know what hell is. So when you talk about it, George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or Sandra Bland or Emmett Till or any of the others, you are going to know hell. So when you write about it, you'll write about it from firsthand experience. And so what the Creator had done to teach us this lesson, I'm going to grab a group of y'all out of heaven and I'm going to place y'all in hell. And so from having the DNA of the pyramid builders, we now have the DNA of the plantation dwellers. We now know hell. We know heaven, pyramids, and we know hell, the plantation.
Yeah. Yes.
But the Creator said, I promised you that I would take you someplace. I promised you this would not last forever. But before I take you where you need to go, I need to put you in purgatory, to think and to reflect and to grow. So from being the pyramid builder to the plantation dweller, they put us in the project. And we lived in the project. I was born and raised in a project in New York, so I know project.
Yeah.
And they named it right. It was a project. What do you do when you put black folk on top of each other?
Yeah. That's a project.
And control them. When I was growing up in the project, Brother Dwann, we couldn't have cars. Because if you had a car, that meant you made money. And if you made that kind of money, you weren't eligible for the projects. And so what my parents did is they learned how to work their show. My father worked in the post office. My mother was a secretary. But my mother wasn't allowed to work because she would have brought the money up too high. They would have thrown us out the project. We didn't have enough money to live outside of something in a project, but my parents were making more than what they said was stipulated for living in a project. So the project was to control, contain, and dominate you so that you were stuck there. But like all genius black folk, my parents got their hustle together. And they learned how to work their show. My father was a cleaner, a tailor, worked at the office at night, but he used to iron clothes and repair clothes during the day. My mother used to do extra work secretarial work for people and got paid. And they quietly accumulated cash in the house in order for them to be able to purchase an apartment, a co-op apartment. But they had to do it underground because of the genius and ingenuity and the resilience of Black folk.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And right now, that resilience, if you're listening to me right now, you got that resilience.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you're alive is a miracle. Because you ain't supposed to be here. You're supposed to be back in Africa, dead or crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But Dwann and I are not supposed to be talking and doing this kind of conversation. This was never in the picture. But you see, there's something about arrogant ignorance that makes you think you better than you are because you're so busy feeling insecure and inferior that you have to make yourself supreme in order to make yourself feel better. Because you know by the nature of things, you are inferior, you are insecure, and you are fragile.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the project, in purgatory, we thought about the conditions that we find ourselves in. And we began to make moves. And now, with the DNA of the builders, which is heaven, the DNA of the plantations, which is hell, the DNA of the projects, which is purgatory, now we're on our way to the promised land. Now we're on our way to the promised land. But let me backstep for a minute, my brother Dwann, because there's another story I'd like to tell, and that is what bridges the pyramid age to the plantation age. And this is what I want to tell every African American. And I want you to understand there's a science behind this. And I think you'll understand it from the common sense I'm about to make to you. And I want to go back. I want to go back to Africa. I want to go back to a village that we lived in, where we played with our friends and we did errands for the elders, where we sat and learned about life in school, where our elders ensured that the community was sustaining itself, where food, clothing, shelter, nobody went without. Communities that at sometimes were flourishing and doing very well. But I want us to imagine playing together one day. And all of a sudden, from nowhere, are people that we have never seen, don't know, don't understand their language, they don't look like us, and they come in very violently. And we watch them kill our parents and our grandparents, burn our businesses, and they snatch us. Just that alone, only the best of the best could have survived. And then they put shackles on us, and they beat us and cause much mayhem. And they make us walk from one part of the continent out of our village all the way over to a place that we've never been before. And they put us in a prison. Only the best of the best could have survived that. And then at some point they come down. We're defecating on ourselves, we're vomiting on ourselves, we're crying with each other. And some of us who are Africans are with other Africans, but we don't speak the same language. But we're all in the same situation. And at some point they take us and they put us on a boat. For some of us, we may never ever seen a boat that big before. We don't have any idea where we're going, why we're going there. We don't understand anything that's going on around us. And they take us for a period of time across these great waters. We watch some of our own people jump overboard before they will stay on that ship, and we watch them eaten by sharks. And we go across. And then they take us out and they put us into a place when we've reached our destination. And they break us. They torture us. They rape us. They buck break us. They do things that we have never in our existence ever even imagined a human being would do to another human being. Only the best of the best could have survived that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you understand where we're going with this. Only the best of, think about going through this. Only the best of the best could have survived this. And then all of a sudden, after they break us, they beat us, they torture us, they cause all sorts of mayhem, then they begin to give us to other people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't understand, you know, what they're doing, but basically I'm talking about the auction block. And some of us who are families, brothers and sisters, that's the last time we'll ever see our sister. The last time we'll see our brother. Maybe it's our mother, maybe it's our father. We will never see them again. There's a gospel song that says, sometimes I feel like a motherless child.
Mm-hmm.
That's our story. The African American people and the diaspora are children who have lived a motherless life. Only the best of the best could have survived that. And so now we're enslaved. We're enslaved in Central, South America, in the Caribbean, in the United States, in the 13 colonies. And of course, all the mayhem and the pain that they cause for the hundreds of years. Only the best of the best could survive that. And then 1865 they come up with a fake thing that they say you emancipated, but emancipated what? What you gonna do? Free? Free what? Where am I going?
Mm-hmm.
You ain't give me the 40 acres and a mule. So what am I gonna do? So out of that desperation and survival mode, we formed a unique way of living. And only the best of the best could have survived. Now let me take you up to the World Wars, and let me take you to 1945, after World War II.
Mm-hmm. And
all of a sudden now, we've had enough, because we've been in Europe now. We've been in World War II. Tuskegee Airmen, the African American Women Army Corps. We in Europe now. They're honoring us. They're honoring the Tuskegee Airmen. They're honoring the 369th, of which my father was a member. They're honoring them for killing the Germans and the Italians and the Japanese. And so now we come back and we get on the bus, uniform, looking good. And all of a sudden they say, to the back of the bus.
Mm-hmm.
The brother said, back of the bus? Let me tell you something. I shot a white man look just like you, and this is where this medal is. I shot someone look like you. So the black man and woman came back from the world wars with a new way of thinking of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They shot white people and got awarded for it. And then in 1955, Emmett Till. Well, first of all, in 1945, they killed a soldier. That's what started that particular movement. People say it was Emmett Till. Emmett Till crystallized it. But it was that soldier that they killed in 1945 that ushered in, we ain't taking this no more. This time is up.
Mm-hmm.
Only the best of the best could survive. This is the point I'm trying to make. When you go back to all the ancestors, when you talk about the pyramid age, the age of heaven, going into the age of hell, the story becomes the fact that this is the hell that we've experienced, and only the best of the best could have survived it. But even that, we went into the projects to chill out for a while, to have a time out, to think about, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? And then on April 3rd, 1968, there was a brother by the name of Martin Luther King that spoke to a group of African Americans in Memphis, Tennessee, in a Masonic lodge. And you know, he wasn't going to speak that day.
Yeah.
Dr. King, from my research, wasn't supposed to speak that day. He wasn't feeling well, and he was back in the Lorraine Motel.
Raining. It was tough that day. Yeah.
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 Absolutely. And so he said, well, Ralph, you go and you speak to the group, and we'll keep doing what we're doing with the sanitation department, but I really don't feel like doing this. And so when Ralph Abernathy and the contingent came into the hall, all of a sudden now, they're chanting Dr. King. They see Ralph Abernathy. So when they see Ralph Abernathy, they're assuming Dr. King ain't far away.
Mm-hmm.
So they start chanting Dr. King's name, and Ralph Abernathy said, look, before I get up on this stage, let's call Martin and tell him he got to make it here. And so they called him. He got up and he went. There are people that were in that room that I've heard say that the man that woke up out of that sleep was not the man that went to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
He was different. There was something exuberant about him. There was something very real about him. And just to do a little segue here, in my book, Shabaka Stone, I'm talking about cosmic consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is I use that speech that Martin Luther King, I've been to the mountaintop, I use that speech to demonstrate that Dr. Martin Luther King that night had been touched by the divine and delivered a message that we should never forget. We should never forget that message.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I forget Malcolm's message, chickens have come home to roost. That was prophetic. Prophets are not psychics. They're just good historians.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you know what happened in the past, you can interpret what's happening in the present and predict what's going to happen in the future. And this is what Dr. King told us. I was a freshman in high school this night. We were on, in fact, we were on spring break, just like now.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, this is the week that it was, because it was just before what we call Holy Thursday in the Roman Catholic Church.
Yes.
It was right after Palm Sunday, because our last day was on Friday. And as we went through these days, this was the beginning of April, and Easter Sunday was like this Sunday that's coming up. You know something, Brother Deshaun? Dwann, this is the exact time.
Yeah, it is.
That Martin Luther King was assassinated on April 4th. But this early part of the week was when he got assassinated. The 4th fell earlier in the week. It was before Thursday. Mm-hmm. It was before what's going to come tomorrow. I think it was a Monday or a Tuesday.
It was a Tuesday.
A Tuesday, okay. Then it was a Tuesday. And I remember the day clearly. But I want to go back to April 3rd. And I want to talk about what Dr. King told us. Because there are elements of cosmic consciousness in what he's talking about. There are words of divine that he told us that we should never forget. And he said that he had been to the mountaintop and that the Creator had allowed him to look over, and he saw the promised land. And then he said something interesting. He said, I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. Now, why did he say that? Because he knew the next day, that time, he wouldn't be here. I want you to know tonight. I want you to know tonight, because tomorrow he didn't say this, he said, but I'm saying because the next night, April 4th, he would be with the ancestors. So now, from the project, we have the DNA, and we're heading towards the promised land. Mm-hmm. And all this stuff you see happening out here, all of the murder and the mayhem, the lies, the cheating, and the thievery, is what Kwame Ture told us years ago. The closer you get to the Creator, the closer the devil is going to get to you. Mm. What we see happening right now, don't be concerned But don't panic. This is them having their intellectual epileptic fit because they know their time is up. Their time for rulership is up. They've had 500 years to get this society together. And they wouldn't know. Dr. John Henry Clark used to always tell me there's two things Europeans never created, and you ought to know that just by what's happened. They say they never created democracy and they never created Christianity because they have never governed democratically, and they wouldn't know how to treat a Christian if they tripped over them.
Dr. Clark. Yeah.
Here's where we are.
Yeah.
We have the DNA to get this together. And to all of us who are wondering or fearful of what the future holds, have no fear for atomic energy. Bob Marley says, because none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We got to fulfill the book.
Got to fulfill the book.
And that's what we're doing. We're fulfilling the book.
Yeah.
And it's in our children and those yet to be born and those that will be born in 21 that I've dedicated my life to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a 20-year plan. I have a 100-year plan. I build like our ancestors built the pyramids for eternity. What I'm building will stand for the rest of time and space.
Mm-hmm.
And all I'm doing is continuing what the ancestors laid out for us.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't creating nothing new. I'm just taking it, I'm updating it, but the same fundamental principles that our ancestors worked on. And you see, the third book that I wrote, Shabaka Stone, is exactly that.
Yes, let's get into it.
Shabaka Stone is the key to life. It's so important to understand. Shabaka Stone is a rewritten version of a much older document that's called the Memphite Theology. Somewhere around the 700s, we call them Neset Biti, Neset Bity. Please excuse my spelling, family. I'm a teacher. I can't help it. I don't want to throw words out and assume you know how to spell them, because one of the first things I always ask people now, when they give me a word that I don't know, I ask them how to spell it so I can see it in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So know that I offer you this as a courtesy, as I would hope someone would spell words for me so I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we call the pharaoh. The pharaoh is a Greek determinative that came out of us that's called per-ah, P-E-R-A-H. Per-ah means the house of life, the temple of life. And that is what the leader of the pharaonic philosophy was looked to be. He was the divine human. And the woman that sat on the throne next to him was the divine female. And the way in which they conducted themselves was a roadmap as to how a divine human works. Now, can you imagine if we took that seriously today,
mm-hmm.
with the leaders that we see? The last person I want to be is the great majority of leaders that I have seen. In fact, I'll just drop the other shoe. All of them, none of them were any good.
Yeah, none of them.
That's why we're in the position that we're in right now. And so when Shabaka, the pharaoh, in 710 came upon this document in Memphis, and it was a parchment, or it could have been carved in leather, we don't know.
Are we talking 710 BC?
We're talking about 710 BCE. Before the Common Era or before the Christian era, however folk would like to look at those words. We're talking about 710 BCE. Okay. And when he saw the document, he read Medunetta and he knew what it said. He said, this is an important document that needs to be preserved for all time and space. And so what we're going to do is that we are going to rewrite this document, update it, but keep the words of our ancestors, and we're going to carve it on stone so it will never be destroyed, as the document was being destroyed, written on parchment or on leather. And one of the things that the scribe that wrote it said is that Neset Biti Shabaka had it rewritten because it could not be read from beginning to end. That's how we know that it was being destroyed because of its being destroyed by nature, which were worms. Now, here's what I want you to know about the Shabaka stone. And I want to give you a timeline. I want to give you a timeline of when the Memphite theology was first written. Think in those terms, in the ancient of days, going back 3000 BC. Okay, that's when the Memphite theology was written in Memphis. Shabaka comes upon this document 710 BC. He rewrites and honors his ancestors for rewriting a valuable document. Now let's go to from 710 BC to March 31st, 2021, today. When Shabaka rewrote the words of his ancestors, that was a longer period of time than between when Shabaka rewrote it and today. That's how sacred this writing is. That's how important this writing is. This is an ancient document that speaks of the origin and development and the continuing development of the cosmic universe. The Shabaka stone is a key to life. The Shabaka stone is the final book in my Trinity, because I wrote 3. Shabaka stone, there's a parallel. I am honoring Shabaka as Shabaka honored his ancestors. I, in writing Shabaka stone, am rewriting the work that Shabaka rewrote of his ancestors. So what we're doing is that we are connecting, because the 25th dynasty really is one of the last times that the sun rose in Kemet. Remember my story about the sun rising in the east for the last time?
Yes.
Well, this is about the time it's happening. This is about the time that it's happening. So look at the metaphor in what we're talking about. Because through studying Shabaka stone, first was George G.M. James. That's my first exposure to the Shabaka stone, George G.M. James's book, Stolen Legacy. Until now, what I'm attempting to do is to continue the legacy of our ancestors from the pyramid age to what began the plantation age, me living in a project, but trying to get to the promised land. But my second book, Spirituality Before Religions, is what is going to open up for us to understand a simple concept. Spirituality is unseen science, and science is spirituality. If I showed you a piece of leather, you wouldn't have to ask me, is there suede on the other side? Because you know, the other side of leather is suede. If I had a coin that was on heads, you wouldn't have to worry if on the other side was the tail. That's what spirituality and science is. When you see science, you know spirituality is on the other side. And when you see spirituality, you know that science is on the other side.
Yes.
And what I attempted to do in my second book, knowing that the third book was going to open up this book, was to lay out the framework for the emancipation, the liberation of the spiritual essence of the African American on his or her way on to the promised land. But William Leo Hansberry is my first book. And William Leo Hansberry is the architect for America's African Studies program. He developed it in Howard University in 1922. I wrote 2 master's theses on William Leo Hansberry.
Oh, wow.
One, I was getting a master's in history, and the other, I was getting a master's in educational supervision and administration. In my first book, my first thesis, the history, I followed his life, his times, and the work. He was born 1896, started teaching at Howard in 1922, and he joined the Ancestors in 1965. My second thesis was, how did he build that African Studies department? Because it didn't exist. African people learned about their history in history class.
Yes.
And you were marginalized.
Yeah.
They didn't tell you anything of any greatness. And see, Carter G. Woodson and William Leo Hansberry both were at Howard at the same time. They were colleagues.
I didn't know that.
And they were friends. There was another brother by the name of Charles Seifert, who was an authority on Ethiopia. See, William Leo Hansberry was to Ethiopia what Dr. Ben is to Egypt.
Okay.
He had an expertise in Ethiopia, which led him into Egypt. Because you can't understand Egypt if you don't understand Ethiopia, or Kush, as I call it. You can't understand Kush if you don't understand the Twa Mbuti, the short-statured people known as Khois, San, Moesha, Anu. Because the Kush come out of the Twa Mbuti. Twa Mbuti is the original human family. That's the original human family. And for my hip-hopsters out there, in rap, I'm doing a special project now. The first language spoken was called the Click language. And if you want to hear what Click sounds like, I encourage you to go to a sister. She was a singer. Her name was Miriam Makeba. And go to a song called Pata Pata, P-A-T-A, P-A-T-A. Listen, and you'll hear the click.
Okay.
Click language comes from consonants. Vowels were added in language by Africans to first expand the vocabulary, but at the same time be able to differentiate words. So you have the consonants B, C, D, F, S, R, T, V, W, Z. But then when you introduce vowels, A, E, O, U, what could be a becomes a church, cat, bat, because you've added A, E, O, U between the consonants, which separates the clicks. Now, to my rappers out there, listen to the click language. Listen to Ludwig van Beethoven, another brother, black man from Amsterdam. Outside of Beethoven's house in Germany, in Bonn, Germany, and in Vienna, they have a sign out there. I got a picture of it. It says Schwarzer Spanier-Haus, which means the Black Spaniard's house. Schwarzer, black, Spanier, Spanish, house, H-A-U-S. Schwarzer Spanier-Haus, the Black Spaniard's house. This is history. This is science. They accused Beethoven. I've heard them say that he split the web in his fingers in order to be able to stretch his hand out, because he played musical notes that all present-day pianists then could not play because their hands were not that wide. He could get from one key to another key, and nobody could figure out how he did it.
So he had to be a brother.
He was a brother.
He had the Michael Jordan hands. He had to be a brother. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is he had master's hands, because he didn't have big hands. What he had was a genius way of playing the piano. I call it the Simone Biles effect.
Yeah, she creating new rules.
Okay, they say, and they say to her, hey, see, now here's a young sister who has gone through a life system. She has gone from heaven to hell to the projects, and she's on her way to the promised land. Bless that sister. And bless her grandparents, too. But here she is, Simone Biles, performing feats that have never been seen before. And these people tell her, well, you can't do that. He said, why not? Because we can't do it. And if you start doing stuff that we can't do, we'll never own this again. Who you think you are? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Jackie Robinson? You see, because when we let them into sports, they changed the game. We never were able. We got all onto steroids because black folks started lifting weights, and they have bodies that white folk don't have. So we needed steroids to make us be able to compete. We couldn't play baseball with you, so we had to take steroids to be able to keep up with you. We took steroids in tennis because look at the Williams sisters. The Williams sisters are not only phenomenal women tennis players, not to mention Naomi. Not only are they fantastic women tennis player, but they probably beat most of the men too. Who you think you are, Simone? That's who Beethoven was. Beethoven was that ability to do things they could not do. So in order to explain your genius, they had to give you made-up illusions so they could feel better about themselves. So what I want you to do is look at the click language and then listen to the way Beethoven played the piano. But don't stop there. Then I want you to go to Thelonious Monk.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to hear how he played the piano. And then I want you to listen to John Coltrane. And then I want you to listen to Jidenna. I want you to listen to Lil Wayne. Now, family, I'm not talking about the words and I'm not talking about the personality. If you black and alive in 2021, I got nothing but love for you. The one thing I don't do, and I stay away from, is ever to put another brother or sister down publicly. I may not agree. I may go another way, but my God, brother, the fact that you're still alive, I got to give you credit on that. And so to the rappers, whoever you may like, listen, Nipsey Hussle, happy birthday, brother.
Yes.
Happy birthday to you. Listen to Nipsey Hussle. Here's what it was. My son was into writing rap and was into rapping. And of course, my concern in the early days, because he's in his mid to late 20s now, I was concerned about what he was listening to. I was listening to where I heard the music going because my generation is a hip hop generation. Okay. When I first started teaching in 1979, there was a song on the air. It's called Rapper's Delight. Mm-hmm. And that was the first rap song that was ever put on mainstream radio. I grew up around Gil Scott-Heron and Sonia Sanchez, Nikki Giovanni. I grew up around the early days of rap. I went to coffee clashes. I went to spoken word events that are very much like the ones today. And so I go back to that point in time, and I was concerned about what I heard. But my son kept saying, yo, Dad, don't listen to the words. See, because I come from Smokey Robinson.
Yeah.
Marvin Gaye, poets that took words and took beats. I come from Bob Marley, where you take words and you move them around and put a driving rhythm. There's a message in the music. My son said, don't listen to it like that. Like my son just dropped something on me, Young Dolph.
Yeah.
He was sending some things on Young Dolph. My son sends me a lot. My son really taught me a lot about what I'm talking about as it relates to rap in this generation.
It's like, you see the brotherhood between rap and jazz, even when it comes down to how it functions. In jazz, they had cutting contests, but the cutting contest was battle rap. When you talk about jazz, when you talk about what Louis Armstrong bringing in improv is freestyling. And when you listen to how they rap, you listen to someone like an Andre 3000 or a Kendrick Lamar, they're very percussive with their wording, like a drum.
That's it.
And it really is the twins from the same mother that I think is, I've always said, it's funny you said that. I've always said that, you know what? it's time, because I understand how hip hop, why it had to go off the way it did, because it was being rejected. They had to sort of insulate themselves. But now I think hip hop has grown up to the point to where now we can marry it back with the jazz and the blues because it's all the same family.
Brother, hip hop came out of doo-wop. Doo-wop came out of bebop. Bebop came out of rhythm and blues. Rhythm and blues came out of blues. Blues came out of the plantation. And our singing came out from Africa. You cannot separate them. But it goes back to what you said about the percussiveness of it. Because my son used to say, yo, Dad, listen to the beats. Don't listen to the words. Because the words, as you listen to them, of course, they have their challenges. There's no question. But they use the words as beats. So when you listen to the beats of rap music, when you listen to the music of Thelonious Monk, when you listen to the work of Beethoven, listen to Moonlight Sonata, Für Elise, Military Clock. Listen to that. Listen to the beats. Don't listen necessarily to the actual instrument. Listen to what's happening with your body. And then when you go from Beethoven, now go back to the first language. Listen to Pata Pata. And that's where all this comes from. You can't escape your heritage. Remember, you have 1,047,576 ancestors as of 400 years ago. You have click in your blood, and your click is now coming forward as beats.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to who you are as a person and understand you go way back. You go back to the origins of all things. The way you look, your melanation, your hair texture, the width of your nose, the size of your lips. The Creator doesn't make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
The Creator made you look a certain way. Why are you trying to change how you look? You saying the Creator made an error? I'm afraid to think that. Because you are the Creator having a human experience.
Yes.
Don't be looking for the Creator outside of you. You know, when I was young, you know, like I grew up Roman Catholic, my brother, Dwann. And my mother and I used to go to church on Saturday. And my mother always lit a candle, you know, and she would give me a quarter to light a candle so I could pray to God for something, whatever it was. It could be a person. She said, you know, today so-and-so passed away. We're going to say a prayer for her or him. But every Saturday, my mother and I would go to the church and we would light a candle. But what I noticed is that in various parts of the church, there was candles, these little candles for 25 cents. And then they had a little larger candle for $1. And they had an even larger candle for $5. And in my head, I was trying to figure out, and I would ask my mother, I say, Ma, we lit a candle for, because I'm thinking like a United Stateser. I'm thinking like a capitalist.
Capitalist, yeah.
Okay, you get what you pay for. Okay, so I'm saying to my mother, I say, look, we lit a candle for 25 cents, but that white man over there, he lit a candle for $5. Is his prayers going to be answered before ours? Because if God is a capitalist, $5 got it first. $1 get it next. And if I get around to you, then I might do some things with you. This is where we are as a people right now. We don't realize how great we are, Brother Dwann. We really don't understand the greatness of us, just who we are as a people. I love our people unconditionally. I don't care you pimp, prostitute, gang banger. If you wait for the light to turn red so you can come out with a cup so I can put a little bit of money in there, if you black and alive in 2021, I got nothing but love and respect for you. We can talk about how we can make things better, but I do respect you and I understand your presence and you have a place in this world. You're on this planet for a reason. And as educators, our job is to facilitate and assist the students to find their place. We can't do that. Each individual has to do it for themselves. Our job is to facilitate that happening. It's like if we're in a room and everything is dark, and then you find the light switch, and you turn the light on, and you see the chairs, the mirrors, the television, the art on the wall, the plants. My question, did all those things appear in the room when you turned the light on? No, they were always there. Your light just wasn't on. So with you working with our young people in all of those areas where they are, living a life being told what they not going to do and who they ain't and what you never going to do, you ain't never going to be worth nothing, all that. Give them an opportunity to know how great they really are. How many rap artists that I've heard? I've heard 3 in music, and I'm sure there's more, that will in their rap say, you the one that always told me I wasn't going to amount to nothing, and now you coming to me for something. How many times did we put the children down in the classroom, and in their infinite wisdom, they found their place in life wherever it may have been, and they were able to accomplish something? We got to go back into our classrooms and tell the young people, look, ain't nothing you can't do. And now, since the movie's out, I tell people, you are born with a Judas and you're born with a Messiah. Judas's job is to make sure you don't meet your divine destiny. Your Messiah is to make sure you do. See, the Messiah can fall down 9 times. It's all right. That's human. You can fall down 9 times, but you must get up a 10th. It's all right to fall, but get up and keep going where you were going. And don't let nobody stop you. And that's what this younger generation that I'm looking at is doing. And I say to my generation, because they always say to me, I don't know what's wrong with these children. I carry a mirror in my bag, brother. Because when I hear an adult say that, I bring my mirror out and I say, you want to know what the problem is? Look. Because just the fact that you said that, you the problem.
Man, that's a fact. That's a fact. Because, you know, children don't have a choice on anything. They don't decide. They don't have no say in the income, no say in the neighborhood, no say in nothing. They're literally a product of the environment. That's why I've always been one to say, you know, before you complain about, you know, what the environment produces, be a part of changing the environment. And it's that simple as that. Or if you don't want to, look, everybody out there isn't an activist. Everybody out there, some people just want to go to work and go home. Fine. But if, you know, leave it alone. If you have the time to comment on it and to judge it and spend day to day talking about what's wrong, then, you know, either do something, shit, or get out the pot. Do something and leave it alone.
Yeah. And if you do decide to be a bus driver or a nurse or whatever you decide to do in life, and that's all you want to do, you're going to go to work and come home, be the best at what you do.
Yes.
Be the best nurse on your shift. Be the best bus driver. Be the best sanitation worker. Be the best thief.
My grandmother used to say, look, I don't want you to steal, but if you're going to steal, get in and get out. Don't be going around doing hitting these little petty. Make the crime worth it, and so you ain't got to do it no more.
Hey, listen. You know, I often ask people, what's the difference between a smart crook and a stupid crook? Stupid crooks go to jail. But my point is, of course, I don't want you to be, to do anything criminal, hurt people, anything like that. But what my point is, be the best at what you are.
Mm-hmm.
Have the right to the degree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? No bullshit.
Mm.
And I'm not cursing here. I'm spelling it BULLSHIP as opposed to scholarship. No bullshit. Scholarship. Do your thing. Do it your way. And understand you were born for a particular, unique reason. And you were given a divine gift. And your job in life is to find that divine gift. and to understand it may not come to you in your 20s or your 30s. What I'm doing right now, brother, I'll be honest with you. I've always been behind the scenes. Dr. Clark beat the shit out of my ego. Now that's SHIT. He beat the shit out of my ego. He said, if you're in this for the hand claps, if you're in here for the crowds, get out now. He said, because this is not about that, and you'll only frustrate yourself. Get out now. And the idea was that as you develop yourself and you go into what you're doing, there has to be a higher reason why you're doing it and not for the monetary gain. Dr. Clark it is another thing Dr. Clark used to say. He said, let me tell you something, Booker T. Black people can do anything they want as long as they don't run out in the street and tell everybody what they're doing.
That's facts.
He said, we have a thing that when we do something successful, we got to go out and tell everybody what we're doing. We don't even know who's watching us.
Man.
And so I created a life that I was behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
See, people say, man, you know, write an autobiography. I tell people I ain't gonna write my autobiography until I'm too old to care what people think about me.
Right.
Because I have a story. Like we all have a story.
Yes.
I have a story. I was born and raised in a project. My life was like every other young brother out in the street attempting to find and search for their personhood.
Mm-hmm.
You do what you do. You learn from it, you move on. But I have a history. I have a life that I've lived that has brought me to where I sit right now. But I was never the type of person to be out front. I was always the person in the back.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a march that Al Sharpton was not in the front of the line in New York that I wasn't in the middle.
Mm.
I didn't want to be in the front. I was in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be in the back because that's the two hazardous places, in the front, in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Stay in the middle, militarily speaking, stay in the middle.
Yeah.
You can also get the vibe of the group. And so I always stayed in the background. There was a lawyer, much credit to this brother. He was the Johnny Cochran of the East Coast. His name was Attorney Alton Maddox.
Alton Maddox, talk about it.
Okay. Much of what I do comes from him. He used to bring me to present to the community, to the United African Movement. Attorney Alton Maddox asked me if I would develop a retreat, like a camp for our children in the summertime for 22 years.
Mm.
We brought young brothers up the first 2 weeks of July, and we brought sisters up the last 2 weeks of July. I helped him shape what that camp would look like. Nobody ever knew what I was doing. The things I did in the Board of Education, one of my main points in the Board of Education was to bring Black vendors into the system.
Mm.
Okay, multicultural education has its place, but I wanted to bring money to the vendors. I spent millions of dollars with vendors because there was something, and not only, when I say that, I should not say I spent directly with them. I made it possible. I spent thousands with them, but I opened up the door because here in New York, see, here's what they do to Black people and Hispanic people too. There's two different types of contracts you can have with the New York City Board of Ed. When I was in it, you get a vendor number or you get a contract number.
Mm-hmm. Talk about it. I'm dealing with that right now in LA. Talk about it.
Okay, vendor number says that I can purchase from you as a vendor. I can purchase $250 a month at most. I can't go over $250. So therefore, you're locked into $2,500 a year from an interested party. But when you get a contract, see, this is what I did with Dr. Van Sertima. I brought Dr. Van Sertima into the New York system.
Mm.
Because I explained to his wife, Jacqueline, I said, Jacqueline, yeah, they're telling you about the vendor number. You don't want that. You want a contract number. Because with a contract number, I can go from spending $2,500 with you to spending $25,000 with you.
Mm.
And the way the Board of Ed did it is that you have to have a letter from an authorized person from a district. We had 35 schools in our district in South Central Bronx. I was in District 9, 27 elementary schools and 8 middle schools. And we had a system that, as the director of social studies and cultural education, I was an authorized client. Because for the most part, most people in my position weren't black, and they certainly weren't conscious thinking like I was. So what I began to do was to develop a program where I would go to black vendors and I would teach them how to go after contract numbers, because it's a tedious process. But if you get it, if I write a letter explaining that their products are very important to my educational program, they'll get a contract number. If they get a contract number with District 9, that contract number can be used with the other 30 districts in New York City: Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Bronx, and Staten Island. Once you get in with a contract number, you're in for life. Then you have to keep applying every year or every 2 years. Contract number, you done, you're agreed upon. And the big companies get those. National Geographic, Scott Forsman, all the big publishing companies, they get the contract numbers. What I did underneath was to bring them through, to the point where they brought me down to Central Board, want to know, who are you? We're looking at these different bookstores and black stationery stores, and all these folk are making contract for a couple thousand. Because we had at that point, what started to happen, Brother Dwann, was that a lot of the districts began to hire black people. This is when decentralization took place, and a lot of the districts were taken over by brothers and sisters.
Okay.
And so people started going into positions like mine in other districts. And then I would call up my counterpart in Brooklyn, District 17, and I'd say, listen, man, there's a vendor out here, got some station. So instead of you going to, like, Staples didn't exist at that time. So instead of going to another stationery store, this brother right here is right there in Brooklyn. He's got whatever you need: paper clips, rubber bands, paper, notebooks. And then I would call Queens. I would call District 30. And I say, listen, let me tell you something. There's a bookstore in Brooklyn that got all the books that you need as it relates to buying books for your classroom library.
See. Economics.
That's it. I spent my life behind the scenes is the point that I'm trying to make. Because once you get, Dr. Clark used to always say, the more popular you become, the less power you have, because people are watching you. So I stayed behind the scenes. I tried to stay behind the scenes as much as I could. However, there was a videographer by the name of Reverend Clemson Brown.
Yes.
There was another brother named Yusef, and they videotaped my presentations with Attorney Alton Maddox at the United African Movement. They would audio tape me and take me when I was doing lectures in Harlem in the late 80s and 90s. But remember, that was video cassette and audio cassette. What happened was the dawn of the CD and the DVD. And then they started to convert the videotapes into DVDs, and then the birth of YouTube. And then people started seeing my work here or there. They contact me, I go out to speak, things like that. Things are still kind of quiet. But then I retired in 09, July 09. I get a call in the spring of 2010. It's a brother named Ola. Ola called me. And he said, brother, we've been watching your work, and we're about to do a documentary, and we'd like to know if you'd like to be a part of it. And I said, sure. And I had a school in Harlem called Per Ankh, which means the Temple of Life. I was teaching a class in Harlem to the community. And when they were arranging to come to videotape me, I said, well, come up to my class. And this particular Thursday was in December of 2010. And I invited them up, told them how to get there. They came up. I'm talking about Tariq Nasheed. And my first documentary in Hidden Colors. When you see that, my contribution in Hidden Colors 1, know that that is my school in Harlem.
Okay.
That's where they filmed me, in the Per Unc. I tell you this because since Hidden Colors, it ain't been the same.
Mm-hmm.
It just hasn't been the same. The ancestors, the creator, and the community have asked me to come forward front and center and present my case. But Brother Dwann, if I had my druthers, I would stay behind the scenes.
Me too.
I'm not in the front. But
my wife is sitting here laughing at me right now because she,
okay.
Yeah, same.
You must be obedient because this is your divine mission. And if you disobey Ma'at, then there's no purpose for you to be around anymore. So
True.
Ma'at gave me a choice. Just like my mother. My mother was very democratic throughout my life. She always gave me a choice. She said, Skip, that's my nickname. Skip, be good or be dead. And since I'm still here, you know what choice I took. You got to fulfill your divine mission. You got to fulfill your divine. And when it's time for you to come forward, the ancestors will never give you more than you can handle. And they've never let me down. And so with that, I honor this concept. And I honor you for what you're doing, Brother Dwann. You are fulfilling your divine destiny, particularly with the children. Because when you work with the children, you're working with the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people, because my license is in my first license is in early childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I was a kindergarten teacher. And I tell people all the time, look, you know, you going around paying all these people to analyze you. You giving all these people all this money to tell you who you are. I say, if you really want to know who you are, hang around 4- and 5-year-olds for a while.
Oh, they tell you the truth.
They're pure, man. Pure truth. They don't do it to hurt you. They do it because they're science walking. They tell you what they see. They tell you what they see. I learned more from my 5-year-olds sometimes than everything I experienced in college. Well, like you and I spoke earlier, you know, my brother Dwann, when we first spoke, I told you that when I got my second master's degree in education, supervision, administration, of all the courses that I took, there was only 2 that really made any difference to me. I was happy I got my master's simply because I took these 2 classes. And one of them was Introduction to Special Education.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one was IEP.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I got all of the real study of how to create a curricula. Because everybody need an IEP.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs special education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's great because, like I said, I'm an IEP specialist. Matter of fact, I have an IEP to do next week. And you know, for those of you out there who don't know what an IEP is, it's an independent education plan. And oftentimes they'll put these kids on them. And what they'll do here out in LA is, I'm pretty sure it's the same way where you are. They'll put them in an IEP, but they'll put them in there for behavior. And then they'll just basically not give them the things they need. For those of you parents out there who children have an IEP or you think need one, that same IEP that they use to put your child and dumb them down in the school, you can use that same IEP to get additional tutoring, additional counseling, additional whatever thing your child needs. If your child has a D and they keep getting D's over and over and again, that IEP should pay for funding to get that D up to an A. And all these resources are out there. And I'm saying this to say I thank you, Brother Kaba, again, because before I saw Hidden Colors, I was just going to IEP meetings checking the clock, like whatever, let's get out of here. When I saw Hidden Colors, I saw, okay, no, there's a whole plan to this. And I was able to study IEP. And I was able to say, okay, hold on. What they use for bad, we can actually use for a gold mine for our children if we do it right.
That's right.
So, yeah, I thank you for that. I know you don't have much time. I know you have to get out of here pretty soon. I want to, before we get out of here, I want you to end it however you want to end it. But I definitely want to talk again, have you again bring up the Shabaka Stone, the book.
Yes.
Because that book, you know, especially for us science nerds, you know, it really, it's eye opening. And because every time you go out and look at the stars at night, that book is. Talk to us about that book, where to find it, and then close it however you want to close it.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you for the opportunity. Shabaka Stone is the third book of my trinity. The first book is Professor Hansberry. The second book is Spirituality Before Religions. My third book is Shabaka Stone. Shabaka Stone really is the first book. I was exposed to Shabaka Stone for the first time in my life. My mother exposed me to it. My mother worked, like I said, she was a secretary, and I was writing a book on Ethiopia. It was a novel, and I needed to get a couple of copies of the book. My mother went down to the Xerox room in her corporation where she worked, and most of the people that worked in the Xerox room were brothers and sisters. When my mother went down to get the copies of my book, the brother said, you said this is your son's work. She said, yeah. And the brother said, well, give this to your son, because if your son is writing about this, I know he'll like this. And that was a Xerox copy of Stolen Legacy. This was 1976.
Okay.
This is before Stolen Legacy was republished. This is when it was on the underground. And I went and because my mother gave it to me, and because she said what she said, I said, well, let me take some time to look at this. So I started reading it, you know, great. But then I got to chapter 8, page 139 to 151, the Memphite theology.
Mm-hmm.
Shabaka Stone, chapter 8, Stolen Legacy. Now, I was interested in becoming an astronaut. I've always been interested in the cosmos throughout my life, because I was always trying to figure out what's up there. And I remember when I read that book, it was transformative for me, because I saw things in that chapter that when I talked to other people that were fluent, like when I spoke to Dr. Clark about that, even Dr. Clark said, wait a minute. Say that to me again. And I would tell him what I saw. And he'd say, I never thought of it. But you see, he was looking at it as a social scientist. I was looking at it as an astrophysicist wannabe. And so as we shared this information with each other, and then he would come back and tell me about the 25th dynasty. He would tell me things, and then I would tell him things. And we had a couple of conversations on this alone. And then when I did the Trinity, when I wrote the books, I said, but I have to prepare the community for it. So with my brother Philippe Matthews, who I do a number of interviews with, the Philippe Matthews Shop.
Yes, great channel.
Do a lot of work with him. And as we were developing how we were going to do it and put it in place, I said, there's other things that I have to expose the community to before I write Shabaka Stone. There's other things I have to do. And so what we did was we put up on my my website, www.kabakamene.com, KABAKAMENE.com. On my website, if you can download my free e-course and study guide. Now, the e-course is a 6-day course preparing you for spirituality before religions, because I knew Spirituality Before Religions is the type of book that I want to introduce you to first before I just send it out there.
Mm-hmm.
See, being around children was my blessing because I learned to educate in a way that I could never assume that the person I'm teaching knew anything about what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if you know how to spell the word. I don't know if you know how to write the word. When you're dealing with 4 and 5-year-olds, you can't assume that they know anything.
Yeah.
So you got to build your curriculum from the ground level, from your cornerstone. When I'm in college, when I taught college, look, I'm coming in talking. You better know some things.
Yes.
I ain't going back to your 5th grade to teach you something you should have already known. And so one of my blessings is that I am an early childhood teacher. So I've conditioned my mind to break stuff down to its lowest common denominator before I present it. So my e-course is meant to break down what might be perceived as complex in spirituality before religions. Perceived to be, but is not. Perceived to be. And then you get my study guide.
Mm-hmm.
It's free. 44 pages. Free. It's the most important work I do. Let's go back to Dr. Clark. Dr. Clark used to always say, Booker T, you may not get to your destination, but if you create the proper roadmap, those that come behind you will. And so what this study guide is an outline. And this came from Hidden Colors 1. Because when I went to Hidden Colors 1 to the premiere in Manhattan, New York, it was shown twice, 7, 9:30. Now, I had never seen my head so big before in my life. You know, when I walked into the movie house, I walked in late, first of all, because I was doing something else with my brother Mfudishi. I was doing something with him in Brooklyn.
Dope brother. I like him.
What up, huh?
I like him. Good brother.
Oh, yeah, good brother. In fact, what we did together is on YouTube. It's called Magical Kemet, where we talked about magic, about what real magic is to African people. And by the time I got to the movie house, I got there about 7:25, 7:30. The movie was already started. I walked in. The first thing is it was standing room only in the movie house. And I thought I was in the wrong place. But then I saw people that I knew. And then I saw me. And I said, my goodness, look how big that is. I never saw myself on the screen before.
Yes.
Because remember, I'm on the street all the time. I'm talking to people on 125th Street. This is not what I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
So the movie ends, and I step outside because it's thin in the back of the movie house, and I knew there'd be a bottleneck if I stayed back because people started talking to me because they recognized me. So I stepped outside, but the first thing I was hit with was my peripheral vision to my right. The line went around the block for the second movie. I was shocked, brother.
Mm-hmm.
I had never experienced anything like this before. I'm a country boy, so to speak, if you want to say that. And this is a novelty. But the young people came to me. Now, you're going to know why there were so many people there, along with other reasons. But a lot of young people say, yo, brother, like, I didn't know it was going to be like this. You know, I mean, Tariq was talking about Hidden Colors, you know, and then he put it on World Star Hip Hop. And, you know, like I was expecting Nicki Minaj or Lil Wayne or, you know, I wasn't expecting this. And the young brother said, give me a book I can read to give me a little bit more information. The young sisters that were there were saying the same thing. There were a lot of young people in the audience. I didn't know it until I came outside because it was dark. And then the second showing I went in, afterwards I came back out, same exact thing. People said, yo, man, I didn't know it. Africans in America, Africans in Asia. Where this coming from? I ain't never heard nothing like that. Oh, we are the first human beings? Where this come from? Give me a book. Tell me where I can go to get more information on this. What's your phone number? Let me call you and find out. I realize something, Brother Dwann, and to the family that's listening. For brothers and sisters who are familiar with this information, Hidden Colors don't teach you nothing new. It's good to know. And it makes you feel good that it's presented to you in such a professional manner, dynamic way in which it's presented. But the other side of that is for young people and people who had no idea of their history. This was overwhelming. And I sense it, being around enough children in my life and young people, I know when someone is overwhelmed in a good way and in a not so good way. These folk were in between the two. They were exuberant about what they had found out about themselves, but they were in states of, is it true? Where can I get more information? When someone tells a perfect lie, the truth is unbelievable. And that night, April 2011, I made a promise to myself. And that promise was, I'm not going back outside to be in public and someone come to me and ask me for a book. That is when Dr. Clark, and that what I just told you about the road map. For 2 weeks, Brother Dwann, I shut down. I gathered all of my materials, my college classes, my elementary school lesson plans. I took all of that and I condensed it. It first was a 71 page, but there were a lot of repeating things in there that didn't need to be, so I refined it. It became 44 pages. That document, that study guide, for me, is the single most important thing I have ever done in my life. That's why it's free.
It helped me out.
Okay.
You emailed it to me. I reached out to you damn near 10 years ago.
Okay.
And you emailed it to me because when I saw Hidden Colors, I said, okay, it tied in different loose things that I knew that I would hear from different elders. But I said, okay, now I need to know where to go to dig all the way in. And I reached out to you. You sent me a study guide, and I read a lot of the books on that study guide. So I really thank you for that.
No doubt, Brother Dwann. And it has it's not only in terms of the listing of the books, but it pairs the books with the theme. You know, like for instance, if you're dealing with the origin of life in Africa, and you're dealing with the Australopithecines and the Homo habilis and the Homo erectus, how do you study it?
You gotta know where to go.
You know, where do you go? So what I did is I developed a thematic approach so that there are different areas, so that the books that I tell you to get, whatever books I may tell you to get, Sheikh Anta Diop, Civilizational Barbarism, Introduction to African Civilization by John G. Jackson. You don't have to read the whole book. There might be a chapter or two that pertains to that theme, so that you don't have to think, oh, all these books I have to read. No, you might have 3 books, but there may be 3 chapters out of those 3 books. So it doesn't overwhelm you to think, I got to read this whole book. You have the physical anthropology, you have demographics, you know, there are so many different areas to study Africans in America. Africans in America come in 5 different phases. One book is not going to help you. They came before Columbus, the African presence in early America. The first Americans were Africans. But what chapters out of those books and what pages should you read? That's what the study guide does. It is a roadmap that, like, if you were going from where you are in Los Angeles to Las Vegas, that's like someone taking you to every stop that you're going to go along, and what you should see on either side of the road as you're passing it towards your destination of Las Vegas. Is not just showing you the line to Las Vegas. It's telling you what you should see on either side of the road as you're going, so you know that you're on the right road. And Shabaka stone, coming up out of spirituality before religions, is the cornerstone to life. In that book, at the end, I have a worksheet for you to do, for you to demonstrate for yourself that you are a microcosm of the macrocosm. Every time you wake up in the morning, it's how the universe came into existence. When you go to bed, you lay your head on the pillow, you are going into the nun. You are going into the unconscious state of the cosmic universe. And you are going to spend a certain amount of time there. And then at some anointed time, at some appointed time, something going to happen that's going to wake you up. That's patah. That is patah that converts potential energy of which you were when you were asleep into kinetic energy of who you are when you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you wake up and you're up and you start thinking, one of the first things that you're going to say to yourself is, I'm Dwann. I'm Kaba. You become conscious that you are you, because in your sleep, other things happen. But when you wake up, you become conscious of your consciousness. And then you start to think about what you got to do now that you woke up. Go to work, go to school. I got a meeting here. This is what's going on in your mind as you get up, put your slippers on, heading into the restroom or to the bathroom to wash up to get ready for your day. That is the Shabaka stone. You are living the Shabaka stone. And this is what I call the pattern in the tabernacle. And the pattern in the tabernacle is the life that you live that repeats itself consistently in the cosmos, on the earth, and in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, brother, my contribution to this story is for our community to understand who you are. You are the creator having a human experience. And of all of those millions and millions of sperm cells that could have fertilized your mommy's egg, there was one that did. And it was the one that your mommy's cell. It's the one that your mommy's womb called for to fertilize that egg. And let no other sperm in but that one, because that's the divine destiny. That is your heart soul. I don't care who you are, on what station of life you are, what you're experiencing. You were born with a set of cards. We're all given cards. Some people are given good hands.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are given hands that ain't that good. But it's not the card you were given that's important. It's how you play your cards. We've played our cards very well. We have played our cards. And I'm telling you as a historian, Brother Dwann, the more I study our history, the more in love I fall with our people.
Facts, yes.
We are a wonderful people with all of the trappings of pain and hurt. I understand that. But we are a wonderful people who have a divine destiny. And I believe our divine destiny, Dwann, is to save this planet. There's nobody in the world like African Americans. I'm not talking about better or worse, superior or inferior. I'm not talking about that. Nobody has experienced what the African brought to the 13 colonies and then in the 50 states have experienced. I even hear our Asian brothers and sisters say, now I know what black people go through. Now they know. But I could have told them that in 1880.
1780.
When they first coming over here, they were only here to build a railroad. Mm-hmm. They only let men in. And you're only here for building the railroad. And if you didn't build a railroad and you decided you were going to stay, there's only two things you could do. And both of those European people considered to be women's work. The only two things Chinese people could do. Don't try to get no other job. You either could do laundry or you could cook. That's where the Chinese laundry and the Chinese restaurant came from. That's all they were allowed to do. Women weren't allowed. You're not coming here to mate. You're not coming here for no family. You're coming here to work on the railroad, go back home. But if you stay, you can feed us and clean our clothes. We set the tone for everything that has happened. Back in the day, in the 60s, peoples of Asian descent were known as Orientals.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhat of a derogatory term, but Orientals. In the 60s going into the 80s, people of Asian descent said, we don't want to be called Orientals anymore. So what they did is they took what we did. They said we want to be connected to a continent or land, and we're Americans. So they call themselves from that point on Asian Americans, coming directly out of our calling ourselves African Americans.
Yes.
Or Black Americans, but African Americans. And so we know this. And so all these groups, because look, okay. I go back to a day. I marched with Dr. King in 1965 in Boston. I was in the presence of Malcolm X once in my life when I was 7 years old. I was a part of that concept. Young brother, but I was part of it. And I understand it. When Afrabs, I call them Afrabs, because to be an Arab, you got to be African. That's what makes you an Arab, is that black. But be that as it may, when they started coming in and going into Michigan and going into various parts of the world, we told them, we explained to them, bruh, sis, join with us. No, I think I'd rather just. And we told them, they say, look, they're coming at us at night because they're going to come at you in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Join us as a unified Asian Americans. We said to them, join us. No, I don't think so. To our brothers and sisters who speak Spanish, we said, join us. Now, each of those groups, there were many of them that did join us. I'm speaking of them as a group. I'm not speaking as individuals. I don't speak in absolutes, and I never put people down. That's not what I do. I don't want to put another person down in order to make myself feel good. I'm going to stand on my own square in my greatness. I don't have to step on someone's neck to be great. So I want to be clear with what I'm saying. But as a group, they didn't join us.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm here and I'm saying, look, to the Asian people, look at how they treat you. They see you as niggas with slanted eyes.
Facts.
If you speak Spanish, the reason why they're building that border down there is, first of all, they know that you were the original occupants of this land before they came and took it from you. Because if you look at what Arizona and New Mexico and Texas and all looked like before Europeans came in and did that Westwood Ho thing, this was all Native American land. Of course, the original people were Africans, but that's another side story.
Yeah. We talk about that later.
Yeah. But they call Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters niggas that speak Spanish. And the Afrabs, who you ain't much better treating black folk where you come from than they treat us here, let's be clear, they call y'all sand niggas.
Mm-hmm.
You know Jay-Z?
Yep.
Rich nigga, poor nigga, tall nigga, short nigga. You still a nigga.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Jay-Z meant. And so as we look at this, family, we have to realize that we have the key to the future. Mm-hmm. Everybody coming here right now that is doing all of this talking, if you have come to America for a better life, that better life was supplied by what African Americans built in this country. Don't tell me that the middle class built America. Black people built America. Middle class was able to benefit from what black people did.
Mm-hmm.
We talk in history and science. It's not personal. I love the human family unconditionally. I just ain't got time for some of them. And to all the good white people out there, who I know you exist, I just don't have time to look for you.
Yeah.
Because I want to tell you another story. This is a story that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad used to tell us. He said, there are 1,000 wolves outside your door. There are 100 wolves that would put their life on the line to protect you. They are your allies, and some are your friends. They would do anything on your behalf. There's 900 that are ready to rip you apart. You're looking out your window, and you are thinking about whether or not you're going to go outside.
Mm-hmm.
My question to you is this. There are 1,000 wolves outside your door. 900 want to rip you apart. 100 would put their life on the line to be eaten by the other 900 on your behalf. Here's the problem. You don't know where those 100 are in that group of 1,000. Are you ready to go outside?
Yeah.
So I know you exist, and I respect and honor what you do. But like Malcolm told you then, I tell you now, if you really want to help black people, fix the problem that your people have. Because this ain't a black problem. This is a white people problem. You know, one of the things I said in Hidden Colors, one is black folk don't have a problem. White folk have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Black folks' problem is white people's problem. It's not my fault that you're fragile, insecure, and inferior by nature. Don't punish me because you don't get yourself together.
You said, it was one thing you said one time. I was listening to Brother Shock's show, and you gave the perfect description. And again, here at Hotepish, I don't hate anybody. It's all about educating us. It's all about us playing our game. Same when I coach basketball. You get your game right, you ain't got to worry about your opponent.
That's right.
But you did say something that, as a good coach, it's always good to make your players aware of the other team's tendencies. Mm-hmm. And you gave the perfect descriptions. You said they're like free radicals.
Yeah, here we go. Okay.
And I never, because, you know, we all personally know a lot of, at least a handful of good white people. We do.
Yes.
But when it goes bad, it goes bad.
Yeah.
And real fast. So
yes.
If you understand the free radical, when you said that, I said, okay. No other explanation needed.
That's it. And in everything that exists in the cosmos, everything has its free radical. And the free radical will always be there. When you see, the thing about the Kemetic legacy, what I talk about in the Shabaka stone, you will never get rid of evil. Mm-hmm. Evil is born out of good. You will never get rid of evil. You must put evil in its place.
Yes.
You can't get, because the day you get rid of evil is the day you get rid of good. Mm-hmm. A free radical is that essence of the natural world that decided it wasn't going to follow nature. And so the job of the sun all day long is to fuse hydrogen atoms, create helium atoms. If you put 6 hydrogen atoms together, you put 3 helium atoms together. If you fuse them, that is 1 carbon atom, number 6. In the fusing of the hydrogen atom to create helium, which is precious and important, that is what brings the light and heat energy down to the earth in that fusion. See, again, we're talking science. This is Shabaka stone. And it's coming because I have a whole section on atoms and helium atoms and hydrogen atoms and carbon. We do a lot of study in carbon to understand melanin. But in that fusion, which is good and necessary for life, there is a part of it that breaks away. And that becomes the UVB rays that cause the most damage on Earth. Desert, skin cancer. What was once good broke away from good. That's the story in the Bible about the fallen angel. But they got all that confused because they call him Lucifer. But Lucifer really is light. It's the light that came from the sun that started life on earth. So Lucifer descending down on earth is not a bad thing. It's the light and heat and sound energy that created life on the earth. I don't have a problem with any scripture. I have a problem with their interpretations. They're contaminated with Indo-European thought. When you go back to the original thought, my brother Dwann, it is so pure, so wonderful. So with the books I've written, deeply spiritual, but people say, well, what religion do you belong to? Are you Christian? I say, yeah, I'm Christian. They say, have you ever been Muslim? I said, no, I'm Muslim too.
Yeah.
I'm Jewish, I'm agnostic, I'm atheist, I'm Zoroastrian, I'm Buddhist, I'm Rosicrucian, I'm it all. They say, how you all that? I say, because I'm African. And everything came from me. So whatever religion you are, and spirituality before religions analyze the writings of our ancestors to show, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Genesis is the Shabaka stone. Cain and Abel is the Shabaka stone. The prodigal son is the Shabaka stone. Shabaka stone is the Old and New Testament combined. But the interpretation says, for instance, I spoke at a church. Sister said to me, I just want to know one thing, brother. Is Jesus your Lord and Savior? And I said, most definitely. Jesus is my Lord and Savior. Praise Jesus. She sat down. And then later on, a brother that wasn't necessarily part of the church, but had come to hear my presentation, he said, man, I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed, man. He said, because I didn't think you were going to say that, brother. Jesus is your Lord and Savior. With all the teachings that you do about Africa, Jesus is your Lord. And I said, well, brother, and to the sister also, I said, there was one thing that was very important that neither of you asked me. You asked a question from your intellectual perspective. And the answer that I gave you was through your lens. But there's one thing you should have asked me before either of you asked that question, or after you asked the question. And that was, who is Jesus to me? And I said, I'm Jesus. Because only Jesus can save me. And what I've learned in life is only me can save me. Because neither of them asked me that question. If she had asked me, well, who is Jesus to you? And then she asked me, she assumed that white boy on the cross was who I thought Jesus was. He thought the same thing, but they never asked me the critical question. Who? The interpretation of Jesus. Who is Jesus to me? I'm Jesus. I'm the creator having a human experience. I'm the only one that can save myself. And I have everything. I was born with everything. You were born with everything to save yourself. And there's nothing outside of yourself that can do anything for you if you don't see it first emanating out of yourself. That's the Shabaka stone. And as I visited another church, I told the congregation, I said, I don't believe in God. Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
I said, I don't have faith in God. But before y'all get up and leave now, let me just finish my sentence. I know God. You can lose your faith and you can stop believing. But once you know, you know. And once you know better, you do better.
Yep.
And that's where we have to be as a people right now. I know God. I watched God brush his teeth this morning. I watched God wash his face and prepare himself to go out. I watched God open the door and let me out of my house today. We are the creator having a human experience, and my 3 books were attempting to develop a sequence of events that could, for anyone interested, I don't get complex. I don't try to get heavy. I don't try to get cute with my words. I don't use compound sentences. I try to stay subject, verb, and object as much as possible, thrown in a few adjectives and adverbs. I'm speaking to the people. I'm not looking for no special awards, no collegiate recognition. It's the people that I've dedicated myself to. And I love our people unconditionally, and I respect you wherever you may be. If you're alive in 2021, I got nothing but love for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Amazon, is where my books are. Go to Amazon and Spirituality Before Religion, or you can Google my name, Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, and my book will come.
Go ahead.
Kindle or paperback.
And for those of you listening, I have the link to his website in the description bar. So if you go to the description bar, the Brother Kaba Kamene's site is up. So you can go ahead and you can get the study guide there. And you can get all of his works there. Go ahead.
Instagram.
Because
I got a lot of my work in my bio. The link in my bio.
The link in your bio? Is it a link tree?
Yeah, Linktree. Yeah, on my Instagram page.
Okay. What I'll do is when we're done this video, I will copy and paste the link tree in the description bar. So for those of you watching the replay, or if you're watching right now, come back in 5 minutes after we're done. You're gonna have it in his description bar. Please share the video. Comment after the video. Show Brother Kaba your appreciation, and get what he has, because I'm telling you right now, is life fulfilling and is life changing. And right there, that's, I thank you. I thank you again, Kaba, for coming on, and hopefully we can do it again at some point.
I look forward to the future, brother, man. I look forward when all of this has subsided, and the Black Cosmic Mother forgives us for our transgressions and loves us as she always did. I look forward to coming out to Los Angeles. Los Angeles has been really, wow, those palm trees are something else. But you see, I'm from the Bronx, man. Okay, we don't, them palm trees, man. Yeah. No matter where you live, having palm trees in your apartment make everything about you look good.
Hey, I was riding my bike down the beach today because it's 80 degrees on the beach today. Yes, I love my city.
And then you got that vegetarian place on Slauson, I think it is.
Simply Wholesome. I can see it from my parents' backyard. Man. Yeah.
That is it. I used to look forward to going on Saturdays when they'd have a band playing and eating that good food. And, oh, man, Los Angeles. I love Los Angeles. Because I've gone out to work with the Marcus Garvey School.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's where I filmed. That's where I filmed 2 of the Hidden Colors. But I also filmed Secret to Ballin'.
Yes, Secret to Ballin'. I'm glad you brought that up because that's something I've been meaning. That was with Kenyatta, right?
Yeah, Kenyatta Griggs. Yeah.
I got to get that.
Dane and Kanye were executive producers of that.
Yes. And then you have Buck Breaking coming out next month with Tariq Nasheed.
Oh, yeah. And then we also have Heavy as the Crown, which is part 2 to Outer Darkness.
With Amadeus. I saw the Amadeus Christ. Yeah. I've been waiting for that. I've been waiting on that. I've been waiting on that.
Yeah, and that got the Shabaka Stone in it. And you know what's interesting is that was filmed maybe 2 years ago, maybe even more. And I was in the process of producing Spirituality Before Religions, working on Shabaka Stone. And this film now is coming out where it's almost, again, the stars are crossing between Heavy as the Crown, which is deep spirituality, and Shabaka Stone. It's merging. The stars are crossing, Brother Dwann. This is our time.
Mm-hmm.
Understand this, family.
Mm-hmm.
This is also the age of the feminine principle.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I meant by the Black Cosmic Mother. Understand the feminine energy. Now, please understand what I mean by that, because I'm a man. I'm proud to be a man, but I'm also half woman because I have a mother. So when today, the last day of Women's History Month, I celebrate Women's History Month not only because of my wife and because of my mother, because of my daughters, my friends, colleagues. I celebrate Women's History Month because that's half me.
Mm-hmm.
And every one of us is half man and half woman. The feminine principle is coming. Look around you. Look at what sisters are doing all around the world, from Tanzania to Nigeria to Atlanta, Georgia. Stacey Abrams, Sister Latasha. Look at what the sisters are doing. No matter how you feel about these people, because I know we get all personal and all the rest of that, you know. Kamala Harris is a sister, okay? And I know we may have challenges here or there, but the reality is this. There is a rise of the Black cosmic mother. We're in the age of Aquarius. We're leaving the Piscean age of the fisherman, and we're heading into the age of the water bearer, which is the woman who carries the womb of the cosmic universe. She is rising, and it's our job as Black men to stand with her and through her continue this work. And the work that I do not do for my ancestors. The work they did was for me. What I do is for our children.
Mm-hmm.
I act through my ancestors, but I do it for the children. We're on the way, family.
We're on the way. I want to thank Brother Kaba again. Go to Hotepish.com to get your t-shirts. Fuller, Clark, Welsing, Van Sertima, Ben Yakinen.
All my friends.
I did this because, we so used to wearing jerseys, football, basketball on our back. I say, You know what? I'm putting the scholars on our t-shirt, on our front, so we can wear them loud and proud,
There we go. And as Neely Fuller said, if you're analyzing a problem in the world and white supremacy isn't at the beginning of it, you don't understand the problem, and everything else you come up with is only going to confuse you.
It's only going to confuse you. And I have my webinar May 5th coming out. No time on my book, No Time to Waste, my self-motivation guidebook. We have a webinar coming up to help people out get through the book and then set a goal for ourselves to reach benchmarks through the rest of the year. So go to the description bar to my Eventbrite, sign up for that. And also, Brother Kaba's website is in the description. And I'm going to go on Instagram as soon as we're done. Put his link tree in the description so you'll have everything that you need. Get the study guide. Get the study guide. Please get the study guide, because as someone who works with children, nothing worse as an adult for a child to come and ask me and I say, I don't know. If you don't know, the study guide will help you find out. And so get that and get the book. Shabaka, get the book honoring William Leo Hansberry, because we have to honor those who set the foundation for us to get us where we are right now. Get the book Spirituality Before Religions. Stop arguing about religion and get into the spiritualness and find out what it is before it got to this point to where we're arguing. And please get Shabaka's Stone, because that's going to chart the history of the universe. He breaks in talking about it and how that relates today. Because like John Henry Clark says, all history is a current event. So again, I want to thank you again, Brother Kaba Kamene, for coming on. And we'll see. And remember this, like I end every broadcast. There are no perfect messengers, only perfect messages for those who are willing to pick up game. I'm Dwann B for Brother Kaba Kamene. Thank you again. We out.